I gave my sweet neighbor a spare key for emergencies. Then my life started disappearing piece by piece. My neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, is 70. She's the kind of lady who bakes lemon bars and remembers your birthday. When I moved into my apartment in Seattle, she was the first person to welcome me. After I locked myself out for the third time in a month, she joked, "Honey, just give me a spare. I'm always here anyway." It seemed perfect. I'm a flight attendant, so I'm gone for 3 or 4 days at a time. Having someone nearby to check the pipes or grab a package was a relief. For the first few months, everything was great. I'd come home to a clean counter or a fresh loaf of bread. But then, the glitches started. I came home from a 4-day trip to Paris and noticed my spice rack was rearranged. I'm OCD about my kitchen. Everything is alphabetical, but the cinnamon was where the salt should be. I laughed it off, thinking maybe the vibrations from the nearby construction shifted things. A week later, I noticed my favorite perfume, the expensive stuff I only wear on dates, was half empty. I'd only bought it a month ago. I started looking closer. My silk robe felt warm, like someone had just taken it off. My bed sheets had a faint scent of lavender laundry detergent, but I only use unscented pods. I tried to bring it up to Mrs. Higgins. I asked her if she'd been in the apartment. She smiled that sweet grandmotherly smile and said, "Oh, just to water that thirsty fern of yours, dear." I noticed it was drooping. I thanked her, but I didn't even own a fern. I went inside and looked. There, in the corner of my living room, was a massive, thriving fern I'd never seen before. She wasn't just coming in, she was decorating. I told my boyfriend, and he told me I was being paranoid. He said, "She's just a lonely old lady. She's probably just confused." But the confusion was getting darker. I'd find the TV tuned to channels I never watch. I'd find a single plate in the dishwasher that I didn't recognize. The breaking point happened when I came home early from a red-eye flight. I walked into my bedroom and noticed a pair of shoes tucked under my bed. They weren't mine. They were orthopedic white sneakers. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I grabbed a heavy book from my nightstand. It was the only weapon I had, and I checked the closet. Empty. I checked the bathroom. Empty. But when I looked in the mirror, I saw it. A tiny blue smudge of eyeshadow on my vanity. I don't wear blue eyeshadow. I didn't confront her. I was too scared of what she'd say. Instead, I bought a camera. I hid it inside a hollowed-out book on my bookshelf, facing the living room and the kitchen. I went back to work the next day, but I spent every layover in Denver staring at my phone. For the first 2 days, nothing. Just my empty apartment. Then, on the third day, at 2 p.m., the front door opened. Mrs. Higgins didn't just check the pipes. She walked in like she owned the place. She took off her shoes, put on my favorite slippers, and went straight to the fridge. She made herself a sandwich using my groceries. Then she did something that made my skin crawl. She went into my bedroom and came back out wearing one of my sundresses. It didn't even fit her. It was stretched tight over her frame. But she stood in front of my full-length mirror and started brushing her hair with my brush. She was talking to herself, whispering, "He'll be home soon. We need to be ready." Who was he? My boyfriend? Her dead husband? I was 500 miles away, watching a 70-year-old woman live my life through a tiny lens. I watched her sit on my sofa and watch Price is Right for 3 hours. At 5 p.m., she cleaned up every trace of her existence. She wiped the counters. She put my dress back exactly where she found it. She even used a lint roller on the sofa to make sure no gray hairs were left behind. She was a professional. I called the police from the airport as soon as I landed. I told them I had video evidence of a break-in. When we arrived at the apartment complex, Mrs. Higgins was sitting on her porch, rocking in her chair. She waved at me. "Welcome home, honey. You look exhausted." The police entered her apartment with a search warrant. They didn't just find my missing earrings and a few sweaters. They found a shrine. She had hundreds of photos of me. Photos she'd taken through the windows. Photos she'd taken while I was sleeping in my own bed. She had a calendar where she'd tracked my flight schedule for the last 6 months. She knew exactly when I'd be gone and exactly when I'd be back. But the worst part was the diary. She'd been writing entries as me. "Today we went to Paris. I missed him so much. I wore the red dress." She wasn't just stalking me. She was trying to replace me. She believed that if she stayed in my apartment long enough, she would become me. Mrs. Higgins was taken to a psychiatric facility. Turns out she had a history of this in another state. She targets young women who live alone and offers to help. I moved out that weekend. I didn't even take the furniture. I felt like every surface in that place was stained. Now, I live in a building with a 24-hour doorman and 3 different locks on my door. My new neighbor asked me for a spare key yesterday. She said she was worried about my packages getting stolen. I just looked at her and said, "I don't have a spare. I don't think I'll ever have a spare again."